everyone. So I will be doing a reading vlog. I'm going to be reading Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Bastrica. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right, I don't know. But I've seen this book a lot on TikTok. Lots of people who are big horror fans are recommending this. And some are saying like it's really gross. And so I was like, this is a perfect book to do a reading vlog because I'm sure I'll have a lot of feelings about it. So this is what the book says it's about. Working at the local processing plant, Marcos is in the business of slaughtering humans, though no one calls them that anymore. His wife has left him, his father is sinking into dementia, and Marcos tries not to think too hard about how he makes a living. After all, it happened so quickly. First, it was reported that infectious virus has made all animals' meat poisonous to humans, then governments initiated the transition. Now eating human meat, special meat, is legal. Marcos tries to stick to numbers, consignments, processing. Then one day he's given a gift, a live specimen of the finest quality. Though he's aware that any form of personal contact is forbidden on pain of death, little by little he starts to treat her like a human being. And soon he becomes tortured by what has been lost and what might still be saved. So I'm curious if they will explain how, if meat is poisonous, how they just then jumped to human meat since, you know, veggie burgers are a thing and there's many vegetable options unless it's somehow affected, and I really don't know. So I'm really curious about that. How did they jump to humans? So it does sound gross because they're eating humans, but it also sounds very interesting because like I've never read a book like this before, so I'm curious. Okay, I'm loving it already. This is the first paragraph, okay? Carcass, cut in half, stunner, slaughter line, spray wash. These words appear in his head and strike him, destroy him, but they're not just words. They're the blood, the dense smell, the automation, the absence of thought. They burst in on the night, catch him off guard. When he wakes, his body is covered in a film of sweat, because he knows what awaits is another day of slaughtering humans. That's an awesome beginning. I'm not far in this book at all. But, so it said it first started, then it was like killing in secret. So the press documented a case of 2 unemployed people who attacked, dismembered, and barbecued by a group of neighbors. So it was like the first public scandal of its kind, and then it started to become normal. So immigrants, the marginalized, the poor, they were persecuted and eventually slaughtered. Legalization occurred when the governments gave into pressure from big money industries. And so not long after, they began to breed people as animals to supply the massive demands for meat. And I still don't know, like, you know, why not eat vegetables or, like, meat substitutes. I don't know. They haven't explained that yet. But besides, if they didn't have that stuff, yeah, I could totally see, like, America going this way. They would totally give into big corporations and greed and want money. And then go after, like, immigrants and the poor and people they do not care about. Like, I could totally see this happening. And that's a little scary. Okay, I just got to that part. So it said that, so there were massive protests, hunger strikes, complaints filed by human rights organizations, and at the same time, articles, research, and news stories that had an impact on public opinion. Professors and researchers at prestigious universities claimed that animal protein was necessary to live. Doctors confirmed that plant protein didn't contain all the essential amino acids. Experts assumed that methane emissions from cattle had been reduced, but malnutrition was on the rise. Magazine published articles on the dark side of vegetables. It's still not a good reason because, like, I don't think that would happen where universities and big, like, scientists would then go against vegetables. But so far, like, it's good. It seems a little silly with that part. But I'm just going to, like, you know, glaze over that, you know, like, whatever. We live in a world where people are eating. Stop thinking too much into it. Okay, so one of the guy's suppliers just gave him a live specimen, which is like a live human, but they don't consider them human because they're just raised for the purpose of eating later. And it's just so, like, I know it happens to animals, and that's like the sad part. Is because that's like, if you put it in perspective of humans, it's like, that's really messed up, but animals, it's okay. Just like, there are better ways to do it, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying get rid of meat, even though it would help a little with the environment and all that, but that's a different story. It's just like the practices alone are like, you know, raised, you know, aren't moved. And then this one says how there's just tutorials available to eat their part, like to eat it alive, part by part. And it says they say the meat tastes better, claim it's really fresh. Tutorials are available to explain how and where to make cuts so the product doesn't die early, and the product is humans. So with this virus hurting animals, and that's why they can't eat meat, it affects like all animals. So people were basically killing all the animals, like their pets, and some of course couldn't. So they clung on to them, and some of them died from the virus because if they scratch you or like anything gets on you, they will be infected themselves. And so they say like it's not safe to go outside alone because you have to have a weapon just in case an animal comes and like you have to kill it. I just wouldn't want to live in a world like this. Like, not ever eating meat is fine. I don't eat meat anyway. But then, and I wouldn't, you know, I could live without milk and eggs because I'm a vegetarian, but I'm not vegan. So I still consume animal products. But if it's like affected everything, you know, you can't have what comes from them. And so like I could live with that part, but I couldn't just live with there being no animals in the world. Like, I feed my deer, I feed chipmunks and squirrels and the birds, and I love that. I love looking at animals, and I love bunnies and raccoons. So like, even having no pets, I couldn't do it. Like, I wouldn't want to live with a world with no animals. I definitely couldn't kill my pet if they just like, oh, if there's a virus, you have to kill pets. Nope. I couldn't. Okay, so I'm only on page 57, and it just gets worse with what they do to humans. So, if you were thinking, okay, you know, they did it, they had to, they wanted meat, and so this is their way to, you know, solve it. No, they divide some. So if he has like a green mark on their chest, it means that they're game reserve. The specialists examine them and pick the ones in the best physical conditions. The hunters need prey that challenges them. Like, that's so fucked up that now they're going to hunt them. So they raised to be slaughtered. And then, like, some of them are raised to be slaughtered. I don't know if all these, because some, you know, if you're punished, this would happen. But, so it's like, what, hunters need to hunt? Like, that's such bullshit. No. And, like, the sad part is that I could totally see this. Like, even I'm like, oh my god, that's fucked up. But I'm like, yep, I could see that happening here. Something in a world where, you know, animals and this, I have no doubt about it. Okay, so this doesn't really have anything to do with, like, the plot of this book, but I'm on page 63, and there's a character named Ricardo, and the author is Argentina, and so it was originally written in Spanish. And so what I think is funny is, like, my dad, who's Mexican, is named Ricardo. And I've never actually read a book where a character is named Ricardo. And I think that, like, you know, people, I'm so used to, if I'm reading a book, like, have, you know, common names if it's, like, realistic. Or, like, you know, made up names, or, you know, if it's, like, dystopian or, you know, in the future. But I never really thought about it because it's like, yeah, I mean, because I think I'm usually reading, like, American or English authors, that those names are so common that I don't even think about it. But I was just like, oh, hey, a character named Ricardo. I thought that was kind of neat. But I should probably read more books by Spanish authors now that I think about it. So I'm curious how meat eaters, how they feel about this book, because like it's definitely a commentary on like society and how we do this to animals. Like I'm reading this and I'm like, yeah, it's fucked up, but it's what happens here with animals, you know? They do raise them in captivity or some, you know, roam free, but then we slaughter them, we slaughter their babies, and inhumane ways. We go hunting, people hunt. And so, like, I know that's a big commentary between, like, this and, you know, why do we see it as horrible to do humans that way, but we don't with animals. For example, it says that the head enter via an automatic rail. 3 bodies are hanging face down. The first has its throat slit. The other 2 wait their turn. One of these is a female. Sergio has just stunned. The worker presses a button, and the body that's been bled dry follows its course along the rail while the next body moves into place above the trough. With a swift movement, the worker slits the head's throat. The body trembles slightly. The blood falls through the trough. It stains the worker's apron, trousers, and boots. And, like, these are people, humans, that, you know, that they're slitting throats and letting them, and having them bled dry. These are humans. But it's no difference in how we treat animals. So I would be freaked out either way, because I don't like hearing about animal deaths and knowing that this happens. So this doesn't affect me as much, maybe. I don't know. So people, animals, it doesn't matter. It's still both horrible. This book is very descriptive. And so if you do not like blood, gore, anything like that, don't read this book. Just don't. It's very descriptive. And what I find interesting is, like, while I'm reading this, like, I feel nothing. And, because, like, you know, blood, gore, stuff like that don't freak me out. But it's almost like being used to it. And I think that, like, in the book, they're just so used to it also. Like, in a sense that, because I'm reading it, and it sounds like, you know, very clinical, very like, okay, they're slaughtering an animal, but it's a human. But the way they're speaking with them, I'm just like, yeah, okay, it seems, it's like natural kind of thing, because, and so I'm sure, like, at first when they were, you know, killing humans, it was like, you know, but then you just probably become norm, and it's like, yep, like the hunted humans, and it's, you know, and just become so desensitized to it. I'm liking this book. It's sad that this happens to animals, but it's so descriptive, and it's like awesome, kind of. So we know the process of they're bled dry, and then they get, like, they fall into boiling water. They stop and watch a worker use a blowtorch on the scalded corpses. Once they're entirely hairless, they can be gutted. So they see the way the head and the extremities of the female are cut off with a saw. The worker picks up her head and takes it to another table, where he removes her eyes and puts them in a tray with a label that says eyes. He opens her mouth, cuts out her tongue, and places it on the tray with the label that says tongue. He cuts off her ears and sets them down on the tray with the label that says ears. So then he cracks the skull, removes her brain, and leaves that in a tray that's labeled brains. And now her head is empty, and he places it in ice in a drawer that says heads. And so then it says that, you know, they do the same with the hands and the feet. And the arms and legs are sold to butchers attached to the carcasses. After then, they the female has been filleted and is unrecognizable. Without skin and extremities, she's becoming a carcass. And they watch the worker pick up the skin that was removed by a machine and carefully places and stretches it in one of the several large drawers. So they use the skin. I think they make like bags and shit like that. What do the workers think about? Are they aware that what they hold in their hands was beating just moments ago? Do they care? Then he thinks about the fact that he actually spends most of his life supervising a group of people who, following his orders, slits throats, cut up women and men, as if doing so were completely natural. One can get used to almost anything. And especially like this guy, because he says, like, how many heads do they have to kill each month so he can pay for his father's nursing home? So it's like, again, like, people are desperate. This is a job. They have to take it. And so I don't think that it would take us long to get used to something like that if this happened in real life, which I don't think ever would. But I would see that people would adjust to it like this if they had to. So the reason I started reading this book is because it's popular on TikTok, at least the side I'm on, because I like horror and thrillers and all that. And many talked about this book, and they're like, it's disturbing, it's frightening, and blah, blah, blah. So far, I don't find it disturbing. Like, yeah, they're eating people, but I think I've gotten so desensitized that it doesn't affect me. And I think that goes with, like, the main character. He's so desensitized that he just speaks of it as, like, mundane kind of thing. Like, they're describing how to kill a human and the process of it, and it's horrible. But he's just like, yeah, it's work. This guy comes up to him because he gets, like, his supplier, and as, like, I'm sorry for, like, bad produce or some bad product or something, he gives him an actual live specimen. So that means a live human. And so right now he has her, like, locked in his shed because he doesn't know what to do with her. And they're basically feral. And I guess that's, like, what they have to do because they raise them to be slaughtered. So I guess that makes it easier for people because they don't see them as people. And so it makes it easier to kill and eat. Now that there's this girl involved in the shed, I think that's where it's going to get disturbing, but also going to piss me off. And I'm probably not going to like it. Fucking hell, I was right. Like, God damn it. He just raped her. But, you know, I don't know if they would consider it rape. So trigger warning, this book contains rape. Because she's feral and she, you know, like, it's, you know, who knows how this person feels about it. But now she's fucking pregnant. And he's hiding her in the house. Like, she's doing better than before. But he has to hide her because what he's doing is wrong. And it's fucking disgusting. So, I'm on page 137 out of 200. So, I don't have that much left. But I don't see how this could go in a way that I'll be fine with this book. Don't mind my hair, I just got out of the shower. But this book is just becoming worse and worse. So it says, here, I'm going to read it. Trigger warning for rape. Like, just don't read this if you have any, like, triggers of violence. Just don't read it. So it says, he hears one of the hunters, who, sitting close by, whispered to another that the stunning blonde was in fact a young virgin of 14 who needed to be tenderized, and that Guerrero destroyed her in bed, raping her for hours. The man says he was there and that the child was half dead when they took her away to be slaughtered. So what I'm getting at is they use shock value to elicit emotion in the audience. And I do not like shock value things. Like, I don't like it in horror movies and I don't like it in books. It's like, it's gross. It's like, it's the least kind of form of horror because you're not doing anything but just trying to make people shocked. And that's not for me. It is for some, because lots of people recommended this book, but it is just not for me. And I think that scene just like tipped it over. I am probably going to finish it because I do not have that much left to go, but I am very disappointed. I thought I was going to read a great horror book, and people said it was disturbing, but this is not, like, disturbing. This is way beyond. This is, like, violence, and I don't know how to describe it, but just, it's not for me. So I'm really disappointed because I want to read, like, a good horror thriller that disturbs me in the right ways. I'm so fucking pissed with this book. Like, I am done. I thought, I don't know, I'm just so fucking pissed. I don't care that I'm cursing a lot. The author just described about a bunch of teenagers killing puppies. Trigger warning, animal abuse. Of course, with, you know, eating people and rape and all that, you know, why not just throw in animal cruelty and animal death in it? So this guy broke into a zoo one day, and he found puppies, and he was holding the puppies, and the puppies, you know, didn't really trust him because, you know, they're puppies. They do not know, because they do not know humans, because they've been, like, they were just born, really, and their life is like this zoo that's abandoned, but, like, locked up. Well, now that he went back to the zoo to see the puppies, and teenagers broke in and killed them. And they're describing them being murdered. And I am just so fucking tired of this book. Like, there's nothing good about it. Just freaking shock value. And it's disgusting, and I hate it. So I'm just going to, I'm on page 155 of 209. And I'm going to just freaking skip chapters and just find out what happens. Because I'm far enough that I'm like, okay, whatever, I want to know. But after this, now they're talking about lighting the puppy on fire. Like, no. No, I'm done. I'm done. Don't read this fucking book. Just don't. Okay, I just finished the book. I hated the ending. I hated the book. I thought it was interesting at first, and then it just got worse and worse. Nope. Not gonna recommend it to anybody. Not gonna say it's a good book. It's just awful.